Hello, fellow creator. So, I want to talk to you today about what learning is because I realized something about learning yesterday. So, here's what happened. I was going through boxes in my parents' basement, some boxes of mine, old stuff I'd held on to, and I came to one that really brought me back. It was a box of all of my papers from divinity school. Some of you may know I went to divinity school some years ago and I studied comparative religion. I spent really 2 years just deeply exploring the religions of the world, and it was something I'd always been very interested in because I've always been a seeker, but this was a deep, deep dive into this topic. And I had taken out a lot of loans and I had invested a lot of time and money in gaining this knowledge and getting this degree, and it was a huge amount of work. So I looked into this box and I found binder after binder of course readers and old essays, and I remembered what it felt like, all of those hours, all of those late nights spent studying and memorizing and trying to formulate the thesis and pass the exam and all of the things you do in the gauntlet of higher education in the pursuit of knowledge. And I had this amazing realization that I had held on to all of this stuff for years now, as if it somehow, I don't know, gave credence to or validated this experience that I had gone through going there, almost as though the experience was somehow contained within all of these papers. And you know, like that the fact that I was holding on to them somehow said that it had been somehow worth it, you know, like all of that investment, all that time, all that money, everything. And I looked at them and I just had this beautiful new clarity that I didn't need any of this stuff anymore. That anything that I had learned from the experience, I could now trust was contained within my body, within my soul, that it had changed me, and that anything that was of value in the experience was of value because it had transformed me in some way. So all the stuff, all the papers, the books even, it's really pretty irrelevant at this point. So I took them and one by one I emptied those binders and I put all of those papers, thousands and thousands and thousands of pages, all of which I had read and at some point responded to and summarized and memorized, and now I didn't seem to remember really any of it. And I put it into the recycling. And I closed the lid. And as I did, I remembered some other things about the experience of being in school those years ago. I remembered how alienating it had felt to me. I remembered how disconnecting it was in some sense, because as invigorating as it was to expand my knowledge in that way, all of that time spent achieving by another person's standards, by other people's standards, actually in some ways took me farther away from my own heart. And the years since then have really been a process of reclaiming that intuitive, primal wisdom that has always been mine to access, without any kind of schooling, you know, without following anybody else's rules. It's now about, for me, recovering and uncovering that deep, that primal wisdom, the wisdom from childhood, the intuitive sense that's always led me to want to understand magic in the world and love and the way the heart works. and the way we change and grow and come to understand and find our way to get closer to Source in this world, to Spirit, and all the ways that Spirit lives and moves in us. And I realized then that perhaps the greatest gift of all of that time and all of that energy I spent learning was that it was actually an experience of contrast. It was actually showing me what it feels like to live far from my deep river, my own well of creative inspiration and my own way of interacting with inspiration, which has always been music. It's always been, I've always needed to sing. And I felt how far I've come, and I felt so grateful to be back on this path that I'm on now of returning to music and feeling now so alive and so full and so much trust in the wisdom of the heart and what the heart knows. So that's my lesson for the week. What is learning? Learning is not the books, it's not the papers, it's how it changes us. And we carry that with us, no matter what. So, thank you for watching. And I always love hearing from you, where your own journey is taking you, what ways you are finding to grow and transform and come vibrantly to life in spite of all the forces that might try to contain us. So thank you, and have a beautiful week.